Right now, in at least 7 countries across hospitals in South Africa, the Netherlands, Germany, Spain, France, the UK, and the United States, passengers from one cruise ship are being monitored for a virus that kills nearly 4 out of every 10 people who develop its severe form. By the time you finish this video, more cases could cross the threshold, because for this virus, symptoms can appear anywhere from 4 to 42 days after exposure. And the part nobody is explaining clearly: is this the real risk for most adults over 50? Has nothing to do with that ship. I'm Dr. Laura Chen. I study how viruses move through populations, and I translate the science into plain language so you can actually use it. No fear, no hype, just the evidence and what to do with it. If this channel is new to you, take 1 second right now, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and join the community link in the description. We're climbing toward 100,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps me keep making videos like this one. Here is exactly what you'll get in this video. You'll understand what hantavirus actually is, why the 2026 cruise ship outbreak made global headlines, why the World Health Organization says the risk to the general public is very low, and most importantly, why adults over 50 still need to take 5 specific actions in your own home. This week, I'm going to give you the truth. The truth is calmer than the headlines, but it requires you to act. Let's begin. When you saw the words hantavirus outbreak in the news, your brain probably did one of 2 things. Either it spiked with co-era anxiety, another pandemic, here we go, or it filed the story away as something happening to other people on a cruise ship far away. Both of those reactions are wrong. Let me explain why. The cruise ship outbreak, the Dutch expedition vessel MV Hondias, which left Ushuaia, Argentina on the 1st of April 2026, involves a very specific strain, called the Andes virus. The World Health Organization has been clear. The Director General said this is not another COVID-1N. The Centers for Disease Control says the risk to the public's health in the United States is extremely low. Andes virus is the only hantavirus strain ever documented to spread from person to person, and even then only in close prolonged household contact. Sharing utensils, sharing a bed, long hours in an enclosed space with someone who is already symptomatic. That's why a cruise ship, a sealed environment with shared dining, shared bathrooms, shared air for weeks, became a transmission setting. Your living room is not a cruise ship. So that's the first reframe. You are not going to catch this virus from a stranger at the grocery store. But here is the second reframe, and this is the one that matters for you. The cruise ship is the new story. The actual pattern of hantavirus exposure for adults in the United States, Canada, parts of Europe, and across Central Asia, including right here in this part of the world, has a completely different shape. The exposure happens when a person opens a shed that's been closed for the winter, when a homeowner sweeps out a garage in spring, when a retiree returns to a vacation cabin in March, when someone airs out a basement, a barn, a stored RV, a chicken coop, a storage unit. The virus is already inside waiting in dried rodent droppings. And the moment the dust gets stirred into the air, that's the moment the clock starts. Think of it like a sponge that's been left in a sealed cabinet for 6 months. Open the door, squeeze the sponge, and everything that was trapped inside is now floating in your kitchen. The virus works the same way. It doesn't fly through the neighborhood. It waits in dust. That is the whole point of this video. Let me walk you through exactly what hantavirus is, what it does inside the body, and why doctors take it so seriously. Hantaviruses are a family of viruses, meaning a related group, not one single bug that naturally live inside certain wild rodents in North America. The main one is called Senray virus, which means no name in Spanish. It was discovered in 1993 in the Four Corners region of New Mexico. Senray's main host is the deer mouse, a small big mouse with a white belly and a 2-tone tail. In South America, the main strain making news right now is the Andes virus. In Europe and Asia, there are other strains, including one called Sol virus, which is actually found worldwide, including inside cities. Here's the part everyone gets wrong. The rodents themselves are not sick. They carry the virus in their urine, droppings, and saliva, and they shed it constantly without symptoms. About 15% of deer mice in the United States are estimated to be infected at any given time. You cannot tell by looking at a mouse whether it's carrying the virus. It's like trying to tell which car on the highway has a brake problem just by looking at the paint. Job, you can't. When those bodily fluids dry, and this is the key, the virus stays viable. When the dried material is disturbed, tiny particles become airborne. You breathe them in. They reach the smallest air sacs deep in your lungs called alveoli, the structures that move oxygen from air into your blood. And that's where the trouble begins. The virus attacks the lining of the tiny blood vessels in your lungs called capillaries. Picture a fine mesh screen that's been carefully sealed with rubber. The virus damages the rubber. Fluid starts leaking through within 4 to 10 days after the first flu-like symptoms appear. Your lungs can begin filling with that fluid. Doctors call this hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS for short. In the most severe form, it progresses to acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, where the lungs can no longer transfer oxygen efficiently into the bloodstream. This is why the case fatality rate is so high. Approximately 38% of people who develop severe respiratory symptoms from HPS die from it. Not 38% of everyone exposed. Not 38% of everyone who feels a bit off. 38% of those who reach the severe respiratory stage. That is one of the deadliest viral diseases tracked by the CDC. Hantaviruses found in Europe and Asia work slightly differently. Instead of mainly attacking the lungs, they attack the kidneys and blood vessels, causing what's called hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome or HFRS. Same family of viruses, different organ damage. There is no specific antiviral treatment. There is no widely available vaccine. The only thing that saves lives is early supportive care in a hospital oxygen fluid management, and in severe cases a machine called ECMO that oxygenates blood outside the body. When ECMO is started early, survival can climb to around 80%. When the diagnosis is delayed, and it often is because the early symptoms look exactly like the flu, the outcome is much worse. This is why every hour between exposure, recognition and treatment compounds the damage. Now, let me tell you the 5 real-world situations where adults over 50 are most likely to encounter this virus. Pay attention to which of these is sitting in your life right now. I'd bet you've already done at least one of them this year. Villain has honed up shed, cabin, or garage opened in spring. This is the single most common exposure pattern in the United States. A garage, storage shed, summer cabin, hunting lodge, or detached workshop sits closed through the cold months. Mice move in. They nest in old rags, insulation, stored furniture, the engine bays of stored vehicles. They urinate, defecate, and die there. Then, in March, April, or May, you open the door to start the spring cleaning. You smell something musty. You start sweeping. You shake out a tarp. You move boxes. Every one of those motions launches dried particles into the air you're now breathing. The infamous 2012 Ucide National Park outbreak, which infected 10 people and killed 3, happened in tent cabins where deer mice had nested in the insulation. The campers themselves didn't see a single mouse. Roughly 1/3 of confirmed Hantas cases in the United States involve people who never saw a rodent at all. They just inhaled what the rodents left behind. Villain #2. Vacuuming or sweeping rodent droppings. This is the action that turns a manageable situation into a dangerous one. I want you to hear me very clearly on this. When you see mouse droppings on a shelf, your instinct is to grab the broom or the vacuum. Do not do this. Both of those tools generate exactly the airborne particles that carry the virus deep into your lungs. The CDC is explicit. Never sweep or vacuum droppings, nests, or dead rodents. Vacuum filters, even good ones, are not designed to trap virus-sized particles, and the exhaust blasts them right back into the room. Myth: a HEPA vacuum is safe for mouse droppings. Reality: the recommended cleaning method is always wet cleaning with a disinfectant spray, soak time, and disposable towels. That's it. We'll cover the exact protocol in the solution section. Villain #3. Enclosed spaces with poor ventilation. Hantaviruses break down quickly with sunlight, fresh air, and ultraviolet light. They survive much longer in dark sealed spaces, crawl spaces, attics, basement, the inside of a stored RV, a boat that's been in dry dock, a grain silo, a barn loft, a storage unit. If you enter one of these spaces without first airing it out for at least 30 minutes by opening doors and windows and stepping away, you are walking into the highest risk version of this exposure. The 2026 cruise ship outbreak underscores the same principle. A closed recirculated air environment with a shedding infected animal. In that case, a person is the worst possible setting for any virus that spreads through close contact or aerosol. Villain hash 4. Touching your face after handling contaminated material. You don't have to inhale the virus to be infected. The virus can also enter the body through cuts in the skin or through the membranes of the eyes, nose, and mouth. So, if you handle a dead mouse in a trap with bare hands, then rub your eye, scratch your nose, or touch your lips before washing. That's a viable transmission route. The same applies to handling firewood that was stacked outside, sorting through stored seasonal clothes, or moving boxes that had rodent contact. Bites and scratches from a live infected rodent can also transmit the virus, though this is rare. Gardeners, woodworkers, and people who maintain detached properties pay attention here. Villain hash 5. Dismissing the early symptoms as the flu. This is the villain that kills people. The first phase of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, the phase that lasts roughly 1 to 10 days before the lungs start filling, looks exactly like influenza. Fever, fatigue, headache, chills, nausea, sometimes diarrhea or vomiting. The single most distinctive feature, according to clinicians who have treated cases, is severe muscle pain in the large muscle groups, the thighs, hips, lower back, and sometimes the shoulders that does not respond to ibuprofen or acetaminophen. Many patients describe it as the worst muscle pain of their lives. If you have flu-like symptoms with that kind of muscle pain, and you have been anywhere near rodent droppings in the previous 6 weeks, a cabin, a shed, a storage area, an old building, a barn, a campground, you tell that to a doctor immediately. Mention the exposure by name. Diagnosis in the first 72 hours is difficult, and waiting is what kills. 5 villains. Notice how 4 of them are about behavior, not bad luck. I want to share a pattern we see in case reports, and this is a composite drawn from the typical profile that hospitals and public health departments document. Picture a woman. Call her Patricia. She's 67, recently retired from teaching, lives in a single-story home in a quiet area outside a mid-sized city. She and her husband own a small cabin they visit in the warmer months. Nothing fancy, just a getaway. In April, she drives up alone to open the cabin for the season. She finds mouse droppings on the kitchen counter and in the cupboards. She does what any reasonable person would do. She gets a broom, she sweeps, she shakes out the curtains. She wipes everything down with a damp rag. She spends about 4 hours cleaning. She drives home that evening and feels fine. 18 days later, she gets what she assumes is a bad case of the flu. Fever, chills, aching legs, and lower back so deep it wakes her up at night. She takes ibuprofen. It barely touches the pain. Her primary care doctor's office is booked, so she waits 2 more days. By the time she gets to urgent care, she has a dry cough and is short of breath climbing the steps. The clinician notes the symptoms, but doesn't yet ask about rodent exposure. The question nobody asked her until it was almost too late was, "Patricia, when was the last time you cleaned a space where mice had been living?" That single question asked in the first 72 hours is what changes the entire trajectory of this disease. I want you to remember it. Here's something I want to know, and I want you to type it in the comments below right now. How old are you? Tell me. 45, 60, 72? I'm asking because the risk profile genuinely shifts after about 50, not because the virus is more dangerous to your immune system. The data actually says mortality is similar across age groups. The shift happens because after 50, you're statistically more likely to own a second property, to clean your own garage, to inherit and clear out a family home, to maintain a workshop, to manage an RV or a boat, and to have respiratory comorbidities that make any pulmonary infection harder to recover from. So, drop your age below. I read these comments. It shapes the next video. Now the part you came for. 5 villains, 5 solutions, each one matched, each one specific, each one you can act on this week. Solution has HONE. Inspect and seal entry points around your home and any outbuildings. Mice can squeeze through a gap the width of a pencil about 6 mm or 8/4 of an inch. So if you can stick a pencil through it, a mouse can get through it. This week, do a slow walk around the outside of your house and any sheds, garages, or detached buildings. Look at the edges where pipes enter the wall, the gaps under garage doors, vents on the roof and foundation, gaps around window air conditioners, holes in the siding, and the meeting points between the foundation and the wood frame. Seal small holes with steel wool packed in tight, then caul over it. For larger gaps, use hardware, cloth, a wire mesh, and seal the edges. Stuff the area inside the dryer vent if it doesn't have a proper flap. Mice cannot chew through steel, wool, or wire mesh, but they will. Go right through expanding foam alone. This is a one Saturday project. Expected timeline once your home is sealed. New infestations slow dramatically within 2 to 4 weeks. Solution #2. Replace sweeping and vacuuming with a wet cleaning protocol. If you find rodent droppings, urine stains, a nest, or a dead mouse anywhere, here is exactly what to do in order. First, open all the windows and doors in that space and leave for at least 30 minutes. Do not stay in the room. Let air move through. Second, when you return, wear rubber, latex, or nitrile gloves. For light contamination, that's enough. For heavy contamination, visible nests, multiple dead rodents, or droppings throughout a closed space, the CDC recommends adding eye protection and an N95 respirator or higher. Third, mix a bleach solution, 1 part household bleach, to 9 parts water, or use any EPA-registered disinfectant. Spray the contaminated area until it is thoroughly wet. Let it soak for at least 5 minutes up to 15 for heavier contamination. Fourth, use paper towels or disposable rags to wipe up the wet material. Do not use a regular vacuum or a broom at any point. Fifth, double bag the waste in plastic and dispose in an outdoor bin. Sixth, mop the entire floor with a disinfectant. Seventh, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before and after removing your gloves. This is the official protocol. Memorize the sequence. Solution #3. Air out closed spaces before you enter them. Before you go into any space that has been closed for more than a few weeks, a shed, cabin, basement, stored RV, attic, barn, storage unit, or vacation home, open it up first. Open the door, open every window if possible, and walk away. Let the space ventilate for at least 30 minutes. Sunlight and fresh air are your friends. Ultraviolet light degrades HANTAVIRUS relatively quickly. If you can do the opening early in the day and return later, even better. This single habit prevents the highest risk exposure scenario almost entirely. Talk to your doctor before doing heavy cleanup work. If you have COPD, asthma, immune suppression, or are on chemotherapy, they may want you to take additional precautions or have someone else handle it. Solution #4. Use proper personal protective equipment every single time. I want to be specific about this because the right gear matters. For minor exposure, wiping up a few droppings in a kitchen after a single mouse rubber or nitrile gloves and the wet cleaning protocol are sufficient. For moderate exposure, a garage, basement, or shed with visible droppings in multiple areas, add an N95 respirator that fits snugly to your face, plus goggles that seal around the eyes. Not standard reading glasses or open-sided safety glasses. For heavy infestation cleanup, old barns, abandoned cabins, large rodent die-offs, the CDC recommends a half-face air purifying respirator with HEPA filters, full coveralls taped at the wrists and ankles, and unvented goggles. Dispose of gloves and respirator filters after use. If you smell mouse urine in a space, that's a signal that contamination is significant. Treat it accordingly. Solution #5. Know the symptom timeline and act on it. This is the rule that may save your life or someone you love. If within 6 weeks of any potential rodent exposure, closed-up cabin, shed, garage, attic, RV, barn, storage area, you develop a flu-L-like illness with severe muscle pain in your thighs, hips, or lower back that does not respond to standard pain relievers. You do not wait. You call your doctor or go to urgent care that same day. You say out loud these exact words. I am concerned about hantavirus exposure. I cleaned a space with mouse droppings on the date. Diagnosis is hard in the first 72 hours in the early flu phase, but mentioning the exposure prompts the right tests. Early hospital care, oxygen support, careful fluid management, and ECMO, if severe, is what changes the survival rate. Late recognition is what costs lives. Always talk to your doctor about any concerning symptoms. Nothing in this video replaces in-person medical evaluation. 5 villains, 5 solutions, 1 Saturday's worth of work, and a lifelong awareness. Let me show you what a single day of this protocol actually looks like so you know exactly what to do this weekend. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. You make your coffee. Before you do anything else, you walk to your garage, your shed, and any outbuilding on your property. You open every door. You open every window. You walk away. 8:30 a.m. You drive to the hardware store. You pick up a box of nitrile gloves, an N95 respirator, a pair of ceiling safety goggles, a gallon of household bleach, a spray bottle, a roll of heavy-duty paper towels, contractor-grade trash bags, a roll of steel wool, a tube of exterior caul, and a small piece of 1/4-inch hardware cloth. Total cost, depending on your area, somewhere between $35 and $70. 9:30 a.m., you return home. The spaces have been airing out for 90 minutes. You put on your gloves and respirator. You mix 1 cup of bleach with 9 cups of water in the spray bottle. You start with the smallest, most contaminated area first. 10 a.m. to noon. You spray. Wait 5 minutes. Wipe with paper towels. Double bag the waste and mop the floor with the same solution. You move through the garage, then the shed, then the basement corners. You take breaks outside for fresh air every 30 minutes. Hydrate. 12:30 p.m. Lunch break. Wash hands twice. Eat outside if the weather allows. 1:30 p.m. to 4:00 p.m. The sealing phase. You walk around the perimeter of every building and identify every gap larger than a pencil. You pack steel wool into the small ones. You caulk over the steel wool. You install hardware cloth over any larger openings. You replace any worn door sweeps. You check the dryer vent flap. You make sure every screen on every window is intact. 4:30 p.m. You bag and dispose of the trash in an outdoor bin. You wash your work clothes separately in hot water. You take a thorough shower. You make a list of anything you couldn't finish. A high attic access, a crawl space, and you schedule it for next weekend or hire a professional pest control service if needed. 5 p.m. You're done for the day. Your home is now in a completely different risk category than it was this morning. One day, that's the entire intervention. Here is what to expect in the weeks ahead. Week 1, the cleanup itself. You'll notice the musty smell in the garage and shed disappear within a few days as the surfaces dry out and the disinfectant residue dissipates. You may set traps and catch 1 or 2 mice as the existing residents try to leave or relocate. This is normal weeks 2 to 3. Continue trapping. The CDC recommends a full week of trapping with no new captures before you consider the active infestation. Resolved. If you're still catching mice in week 3, there is another entry point you haven't yet sealed. Walk the perimeter again with someone helping you look. Fresh eyes find what tired eyes miss. Weeks 4 to 6 maintenance phase. By now, sealed buildings should be staying mouse-free. Make a habit of doing a 5-minute external inspection every time the seasons change. Add a quarterly reminder to your calendar: March, June, September, December. Check the door sweeps. Check the vent flaps. Check that no new gaps have opened up or wood has shrunk or settled. Weeks 8 to 12, the habit phase. By this point, the protocol stops feeling like a project and starts feeling like background hygiene, the same way you don't think about brushing your teeth. The next time you open the cabin in spring or unpack the holiday decorations from the attic or move boxes in the basement, your hand will reach for gloves and a respirator automatically. That moment, that automatic reach is when you've successfully reduced your hantavirus risk to essentially baseline. Stay with me. The next video will go deeper on rodent proofing for vacation properties and RVs specifically. Let me bring it all together. Hantavirus is one of the deadliest viral infections tracked in the Americas, with a case fatality rate around 38% for those who reach the severe respiratory stage. The 2026 cruise ship outbreak caused by the Andes virus, the only hantavirus strain known to spread between humans, captured headlines because of a unique closed-environment transmission event. The World Health Organization and the CDC have both stated clearly that the risk to the general public is very low. But the everyday risk for adults over 50, especially those who maintain their own homes, vacation properties, or outbuildings, has nothing to do with that ship. It has to do with dust, with closed spaces, with dried rodent waste sitting silently behind your boxes. Remember the 5 villains and the 5 solutions as a single memorable phrase. Seal the gaps. Wet clean only. Air out first. Gear up always. Recognize the symptoms. That's it. That's the entire protocol. Say it out loud once. Write it on a card. Put the card in your garage. I am a health educator and researcher. I am not your personal physician. Nothing in this video replaces evaluation by a clinician who knows your full medical history. Please always talk to your doctor about your specific situation, especially if you have respiratory conditions or you've had a possible exposure. If this video helped you, hit the like button. It's the simplest thing you can do to help this channel reach more people who need this information. Subscribe if you haven't yet. We're building toward 100,000 subscribers, and you are part of that climb. Drop your age in the comments. I read them. And join the community link in the description for more deep dive videos like this one. One last thing. I keep doing these long-form videos for one reason. The standard 15-minute medical appointment does not have time to walk you through the biology, the data, the actions, and the timeline of a disease like this. So I'm giving you the time the system can't. Take care of your lungs. Take care of your home. Take care of the people you live with. The most useful medicine is the kind you learn to apply yourself.